Hello students, it is November 26th, 2024. It's November 26th today? Yeah, I think it's November 26th. 27th, day before Thanksgiving. I'm making this video as the introduction for the current stuff about newspapers for JMS200. So the actual video lecture I will record later, current stuff about newspapers. This is to supplement the other video lecture, newspaper history, stuff like that. We are on our way to Jacumba Hot Springs. We decided to come out here for the day before Thanksgiving. We just stopped off here at this Golden Acorn Travel Center, see if we can get a newspaper, coffee, whatever, just, in case we want to read something while we sit by the hot springs. That's what we're doing. Okay, this is the actual video lecture. This is the substantive stuff that you really ought to be paying attention to. First up, I just want to throw this in there because this is like a pet peeve of mine. When I saw Gladiator 2, which is pretty current as of this recording. I'm recording this in early January 2025. There's a scene in Gladiator 2 where someone is sitting in what appears to be a coffee shop reading what certainly looks like a newspaper. And no, this is not an image from Gladiator 2, but it is making fun of that. There were no newspapers in ancient Rome. Okay, we already covered that in the last video lecture, right? The stuff about newspaper history, which you should have watched first before you watch this one. There were no newspapers. There were things that were if not printed, handwritten and posted on a wall where people could walk by and look out, but they didn't have anything that was reproduced either by hand or by print or distributed, and they didn't have coffee shops either. So, I am willing to understand poetic license and forgive that maybe it wasn't the correct type of rhino in the Colosseum. But no, there were no newspapers in ancient Rome. Gladiator 2 got it wrong, and Gladiator 2 is not anywhere nearly as good as the first one, but c'est la vie. Okay, now this little slide that I threw in here is a follow-up to the recent module we did about adversarial journalism, and I already explained the importance of newspapers being the fourth estate, having a watchdog role on the government. And as of this recording, many people, including myself, are concerned that the press seems to be abdicating that responsibility a little bit. In October, I'm recording this in January 2025, but in October, two things happened. Washington Post had a pro Kamala Harris editorial that the owner killed, didn't want to run, said that the Washington Post should not be endorsing any presidential candidate. And then Los Angeles Times did something very similar, where they refused to allow the editor who was planning to write a pro Kamala Harris editorial. They refused to allow her to print that, and then she actually quit the job over that. She quit her job over that. And related, I'm going to show an editorial cartoon in a moment here. In December, just last month, ABC News, they did not lose a defamation case. Okay, I want to stress that. And this is a very, very sensitive topic. I, apologize that it's a very sensitive topic. But George Stephanopoulos on ABC News referred to Donald Trump as a convicted rapist, which is technically, well, it's true or not, depending upon how you want to define that particular term. He was convicted of sexual assault in this case against E. Jean Carroll. I believe that's the woman's name. You want to qualify that as rape is a matter of semantics. But anyway, Trump, who at that time wasn't elected president yet, he had just been elected president. He had just been elected president, but hadn't taken office yet. He says he's going to sue ABC News for defaming him. Defamation is damaging someone's character, that they've defamed him by saying something that's untrue, and that to settle the case, ABC News, which is owned by Disney, big Mickey Mouse company, paid Trump $15 million. They gave him $15 million for his presidential library, and then the case went away. Now, this is very, very concerning. The reason it's very concerning is that most scholars and most legal analysts, including myself, believe that ABC News would have won the case, that it gets down to this matter of semantics and how you define rape. I mean, that's it's kind of gross and rather sensitive, but that's really what it comes down to, and that substantially what Stephanopoulos was saying was true. Um, but the concern is that these big media companies, including Jeff Bezos, who owns Washington Post, and then the guy who owns the LA Times, and then Disney, who owns ABC, they want to get favor with Trump, who's now the president, that they're going to appease him and then back off this watchdog role, which the press historically has been serving. So anyway, all of that is context for this next slide. Uh, Cartoonist for the Washington Post, editorial cartoonist, draws this cartoon, which shows different media conglomerates, including you have Mickey Mouse down there. Basically, what I just said, that these media companies are bending over backwards and abdicating their watchdog role to kiss up, basically, to use that term, to the new President Trump. The cartoon was rejected. For whatever reason, we could speculate, but probably because Washington Post doesn't want to offend Trump. That's certainly what it seems to be. That editorial cartoonist quit, resigned over that, saying they did not appreciate this sort of interference with their artistic vision. Editorial cartoons have a very, very long history. I used to have a lecture about them. It's just too much to include. But editorial cartoons have a long history in American newspapers, and I do think they're important, and I do think they are part of news. Okay, no luck with the newspaper. So when we got here, we asked them if they had anything we could read while we sit by the pool here. We got this book, this, and then there's the hot spring pool right there. Some facts, and I want to explain this. This is how newspapers have historically been profitable. The goal of a newspaper historically has been 50% advertising, 50% news editorial. And when I want to explain here in a moment what I mean by editorial, which is a very slippery term with multiple meanings. A major daily newspaper in a big city historically could break even if it only had 25% advertising. Sunday papers have more advertising because more people are at home, more people have time for shopping. And they have those extra inserts. We'll talk about that. The Sunday papers have much more advertising, but historically this was kind of a rule of thumb: 50% advertising, 50% news editorial, and if you could make that balance, you would have a profitable newspaper. Okay, now there used to be a significant revenue stream from classified ads. Now, this is pre-internet. I remember this. I'm an old man. I remember this era. Maybe your parents or grandparents remember this era. If you wanted to find a roommate, find a job, sell a car, find a pet, anything like that, you had to go to the newspaper because we didn't have the internet, an easy way of communicating broadly with people, all across the country or all across the nation. And if you were advertising a job, say you wanted to hire a dishwasher or a new waiter, you go to the newspaper or call them up on the phone, and you pay $20, $30, $50, whatever it was, and you get a couple lines. You can look here, an image on the screen, a couple of lines, dishwashers needed at so and so's Mexican restaurant. Here's the phone number, here's the address. That's the way the information gets out. Now, there's almost nothing for that newspaper to do in terms of labor. They don't have to hire graphic artists. They don't have to hire experienced copy editors. They just hire someone to transcribe what the person says. So it was a very, very easy and very, very big source of income. Classified ads no longer supply this level of income to newspapers, and it was Craigslist. Craigslist was the platform decades ago that basically destroyed the classified ad revenue stream for newspapers. And here's an image of, just look this up just a few moments ago. This guy's selling comic books at El Cajon, $2 each. I can just kind of tell from looking at those aren't the ones that I want. But if you wanted to find something other than comic books, even something maybe of questionable legality, I think you can find it on Craigslist. Okay, now, I'm going to pull out before I give this depressing news. I'm going to pull out for a moment here. Newspaper circulation in terms of print circulation is going down. and the profits coming from the newspaper business are going down, and many newspapers are going out of business. That's true. However, uh, I still think these things called newspapers are enormously valuable. The textbook talks about that. They're enormously valuable. Uh, a significant percentage of news that is reported on radio and TV and social media originates with local newspapers because they're one of the only outlets in a city that actually hires people to go out and actually conduct interviews and gather news and collect news and do the job of a traditional journalist. Social media platforms do not hire people to go out and do this. They just pick up from other places. So even if the distribution method of newspapers, actual print newspapers, even if that distribution method goes away, we still need someone or something or somebody to serve that function of providing news to a community, valuable, objective, verified news that we can all trust. We still need something to provide that function. And if it's not going to be newspapers, which it's not going to be moving forward, what is going to take the place? So I think newspapers are very, very important. Historically, they served a very, very valuable role. And I think we need to find something that's going to fill the role that local newspapers used to fill. That's me on my soapbox, and I actually believe that. Now I'm just going to talk as a professor in the School of Journalism and Media Studies. Even if newspapers are no longer a thing moving forward, a degree in journalism is still unbelievably valuable because the skills that you acquire in a journalism degree or public relations or advertising or media studies are enormously valuable. You learn how to communicate on a variety of platforms. And if you can communicate well on a variety of platforms, if you could take a complex topic and boil it down into a few words to someone, that is a great skill. No matter what job you later end up having, people are going to want you to write reports. They're going to want you to generate information. So, a journalism degree, broadly speaking, can be incredibly valuable, even though very few of y'all are going to actually end up being traditional reporters at a local media outlet. I know that, but it's still a valuable degree. So when I present some depressing statistics here, don't say, oh, this is a horrible degree. No, don't think that. Don't think that. Okay. I'm just providing you the information because that's what I do as a professor. All right. Back to sharing my screen. Okay. Here we go. All right. Now, this slide right here shows total circulation of US daily newspapers. We're actually talking about print, hard copies here. And you can see Sunday is separated from weekdays because Sunday has higher circulation. So still, even today, we track those separately. And the peak was like in the 80s or 90s. Internet becomes big in the late 90s, early 2000s. That's when we get this drop off. No surprise. Now, the revenue, this is important. This is interesting here. The revenue that comes from newspapers used to be that red line is advertising. That advertising line was really big. Look, it was over 40 billion. Okay. Not too long ago, 25 years ago, it was over 40 billion. The money coming from advertising has declined, like falling off a cliff, going down. The money that's coming from circulation, meaning paid subscription, either a print subscription or a digital subscription, is actually going up. So a few years ago, we got to the point, which was a big sort of inflection point in the industry, where paid circulation actually surpassed advertising because people are using, advertisers are going to other media outlets to advertise. What is the top newspaper in terms of circulation? Far and away, it's Wall Street Journal. Far and away, it's Wall Street Journal. And that number right there is thousands. So that's 555,000. New York Times is also very big. And then we have a big drop off. After that, I'm kind of surprised to see the Honolulu Star Advertiser there, but okay, I guess that's a big newspaper. So the number one newspaper in terms of print circulation, old fashioned analog paper circulation, is the Wall Street Journal. If you see that question, that's the correct answer. Now we have a graphic. Again, it's about the Wall Street Journal, but here we're comparing print to digital. The lighter blue is digital. subscriptions, and again, that's thousands. Yeah, I think they got over 3 million. Yeah, over 3 million people have paid for the Wall Street Journal. No surprise, people who read the Wall Street Journal probably have higher income, can probably afford, and you can see this. We're going to see this kind of graph and with a few other industries throughout the semester. Um, the way sort of the analog print world, or when it comes to music or video games, the actual artifact of having an actual thing, a cartridge, that's becoming smaller and smaller, and this digital is taking over. That is a historical pattern. Okay, now I want to talk about this. I just find this to be a really fascinating little topic here about insert verification. Those things that would come shoved inside the Sunday newspaper. Maybe you've seen it at your parents' or grandparents' house. You know, when you get the Sunday paper, it's really, really thick. There's coupons in there, okay? Or flyers, you know, go to Vaughn's, go to Keel's, that's a grocery store near me. Um, you know, Costco, Walmart, that kind of things. The newspapers actually get paid money to deliver that stuff to your home. Okay. And that is another big source of income for newspapers, the way classified ads used to be. There is a company, the Alliance for Audited Media. This is a place you could maybe find employment after graduation. Um, they actually come in and verify if a newspaper publisher like the LA Times or the New York Post or the Honolulu paper say, you know, we have, you know, 70,000 copies of our newspapers, or 700,000 copies of our newspapers, whatever, in circulation. This company actually comes in and verifies that that number is correct. Otherwise, people could be fabricating numbers and charging advertisers um, fraudulently, right? They could be claiming that they have a higher readership than they actually have. And there is a person, this cracks me up, there is a person who actually has to go through the Sunday paper and verify if the inserts that the local paper claims it's delivering, it is actually delivering. They call that insert verification. And this reason this is a big deal was people have actually gone to jail over this. Big scandal a little over 20 years ago. Newsday, which is a tabloid newspaper in the New York area. I think y'all should know what tabloid means after watching the last video lecture. They were grossly exaggerating their circulation numbers so much. They actually had to pay money back to the government, and some people went to jail. Now, here, this is pretty old, but this gives you the sense of the kind of data that publishers collect on their product. Don't worry about the numbers. I know there's a lot of numbers. Don't worry about the numbers. But here's something a little more than 10 years ago. Wow, it's like 12, 13 years ago from the local San Diego paper. They have broken down by day how many copies of the paper in circulation, and then also sort of these other kind of publications that they do. And here, this is the one that I want to stress. Um, Monday through Friday, they have a weekday average, and then Sunday is counted separately because some advertisers maybe only want to advertise on Sunday and they could charge more money on Sunday. But look down here at the bottom, if you can see it. Hopefully, it's not cut off on the video. Newspaper publishers assume that more than one person reads a newspaper. So if there's 100 copies of the newspaper in circulation, they multiply that by a particular number. On the weekday, it's 2.1. On Sunday, it's 2.3. So they assume that 2.3 people read each Sunday newspaper. A similar thing is done with television. Nielsen assumes that more than one person is watching a television. None of this is an exact science. This is all guesstimates. But I think it's interesting that different media industries have a similar philosophy. Different media industries have a similar philosophy. And then some of the terms here on the left, reach, frequency, gross rating points. If you go into studying advertising, those are big terms, and those terms are used by all the media industries. All right, the term paywall, I assume many of y'all know what this is, or most of y'all know what this is. At one point, sort of this mythical past, everything online was free. You could just go online and then look at it because the online form of distribution is dethroning the older forms of distribution. Content producers have realized they have to charge for their content. Free, that's old. That doesn't exist so much anymore. A hard wall is when you block everything and you don't allow anyone to look at anything without having a digital subscription. These are relatively rare. Wall Street Journal uses this, and the Wall Street Journal does very, very well. But the Wall Street Journal is kind of an exception that proves the rule. Okay. Most companies, including newspapers or other types of online content providers, use one of these different models. There's something called freemium, where you give some of the content for free, and then you have premium content that you restrict for an additional cost. And then there's also called a metered paywall. A lot of newspapers do this. I would say this is the most common type of paywall, where you allow people to get a certain amount of content free, a certain number of articles for free, and then you want them to pay after they get that number. The metered paywall is the most common type of paywall. I said that, revenue from circulations are going up. Maybe that will continue. You also have some companies making more and more money from digital. They're not quite getting back to the era that they used to be. And then you also have a rise of these newspaper podcasts. I listen to the Daily sometimes, not every day. But the Washington Post has one, and I'm sure other newspapers have them as well. Just finding new ways to distribute the content. If the old way of putting things on paper isn't working, you have to find new ways to get your content out. The end. That's the end of this part. Okay, we just left Jacumba Hot Springs. We're at Desert View Tower, which is very close by. This is Imran, who's going to give us a quick review of Jacumba Hot Springs. Go.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable and very fun. The water was very relaxing, although I wouldn't call it a hot spring. I'd call it more of a warm spring, because after you're in there for a little bit, it's not as hot.
And
it was very enjoyable. The food was pretty alright. It was good. It was nice. I would do it again. Here you go.